you ever heard someone call your name in the middle of a forest when you knew you were completely alone? Most people would turn around without thinking, but in Blackwood Forest, that single mistake may be the last one you ever make. Hidden deep within the mountains of the United States is a place few people are willing to talk about. There are no warning signs that explain the danger, no fences to keep people away, just miles of ancient pine trees standing in complete silence. For decades, hikers have disappeared here without leaving behind a single clue. Search teams have found abandoned backpacks, broken cameras, and empty campsites, but never the people. The locals all tell the same story. The forest learns your name, and once it calls you, you belong to it. Most visitors laugh when they hear that legend, until they hear the whisper themselves. This is the terrifying story of Ethan Carter, a 24-year-old wildlife photographer who believed every mystery had a logical explanation. He was about to discover that some places don't follow the rules of our world, and some voices should never be answered. Ethan had spent years exploring abandoned towns, caves, and forests across the United States. He had heard hundreds of ghost stories, but he never believed any of them. To him, every mystery had a logical explanation. 3 days earlier, his best friend, Mason Brooks, had entered Blackwood Forest alone to photograph wildlife. He never came back. Search and rescue teams searched the area for nearly 72 hours. They found Mason's tent, his backpack, his camera, even his hiking boots. But Mason himself was gone. No footprints, no signs of a struggle. It was as if he had simply disappeared into thin air. Refusing to believe the rumors, Ethan packed his own gear and drove 6 hours to Blackwood Forest. The sky was turning orange as the sun began to set. A cold breeze moved through the trees, carrying a strange silence that made the place feel empty. At the entrance stood an old park ranger. His gray beard was long, and his weathered face looked exhausted, as though he had witnessed something no one should ever see. He looked Ethan directly in the eyes. "You're looking for your friend, aren't you?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. His name is Mason." The ranger lowered his head for a moment before speaking again. "If the forest calls your name..." He paused. "Don't answer." Ethan forced a small smile. "With all due respect, sir, I'm not afraid of ghost stories." The ranger didn't smile back. Instead, he quietly replied, "Neither was your friend." Without another word, Ethan stepped past the gate and disappeared beneath the towering trees. He had no idea that he had just walked into a place where people didn't simply get lost. They were invited. The deeper Ethan walked into Blackwood Forest, the quieter everything became. At first, he could hear birds singing in the distance. Then, nothing. No birds, no insects, not even the sound of the wind moving through the trees. It was a silence so complete that Ethan could hear his own heartbeat. He pulled out his phone. No signal. He opened his GPS. The screen froze. His compass began spinning in circles, refusing to point north. "That's strange," he whispered, trying to stay calm. Ethan continued following Mason's last known hiking route. About an hour later, he found something lying on the ground. A broken camera lens. He picked it up. It was Mason's. The glass was cracked, but there wasn't a single drop of blood nearby. As Ethan looked around, he noticed something even more disturbing. Every tree around him had strange claw marks carved deep into the bark. They weren't made by a bear or any animal he had ever seen. Suddenly, crunch, a footstep echoed behind him. Ethan froze. Slowly, he turned around. Nothing. Just endless rows of dark pine trees disappearing into the fog. He took another step. Crunch. The sound came again, closer this time. Someone, or something, was walking behind him. His breathing became heavier. He quickly raised his flashlight and pointed it into the darkness. The beam revealed nothing except thick fog drifting between the trees. Then, from somewhere deep inside the forest, a soft whisper floated through the air. Ethan. His blood ran cold. The voice sounded familiar, almost like his mother's. But that was impossible. She was hundreds of miles away. Then the whisper came again, a little louder. Ethan. He remembered the old ranger's warning. If the forest calls your name, don't answer. So Ethan stood perfectly still, holding his breath, praying that whatever had spoken would never come any closer. For nearly a full minute, the forest was completely silent. Ethan didn't move. He didn't blink. Then, a gentle laugh echoed through the trees. It sounded like a little girl, soft, innocent, but something about it felt terribly wrong. The laugh stopped. Then another voice whispered, Ethan. This time, it wasn't his mother's voice. It was Mason, his best friend. The voice sounded weak, frightened, almost as if he was fighting to stay alive. Ethan, help me. I'm over here. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. Mason, he whispered. The forest immediately fell silent. A cold chill ran down his spine. He had just made one terrible mistake. He had answered. A sudden gust of freezing wind rushed through the trees. Branches snapped all around him. His flashlight flickered. Once, twice. Then the beam landed on a figure standing between the trees, about 30 feet away. It looked exactly like Mason. His clothes were torn. His face was pale. He stood perfectly still, not moving, not blinking. Ethan, Mason said with a weak smile, I knew you'd come. Relieved, Ethan rushed forward, but after only a few steps, he stopped. Something wasn't right. Mason's smile kept getting wider, far wider than any human mouth could. His jaw stretched unnaturally. His arms slowly became longer, long enough to drag across the forest floor. Then his eyes turned completely black. The thing standing in front of Ethan wasn't Mason. It had only borrowed his face, and then it smiled. Ethan's heart pounded so hard, it felt like it would burst through his chest. Every instinct screamed at him, run. Without another second of hesitation, he turned and sprinted through the forest. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Not one pair, dozens. Heavy, fast, closing in. He didn't dare look back. Branches slashed across his face as he pushed through the darkness. His lungs burned with every breath. Then, the voices returned. Ethan. It was his father's voice. You don't have to run. A few steps later, he heard his younger sister laughing. Wait for me, Ethan. He squeezed his eyes shut for a split second. They weren't real. They couldn't be. Suddenly, his own voice echoed through the trees. Ethan, stop running. You'll never leave. He froze. How could the forest imitate his own voice? His flashlight suddenly went dark. Complete darkness swallowed him. The only thing he could hear was breathing, slow, deep, right behind his shoulder. He could feel warm air against the back of his neck, but he refused to turn around. With shaking hands, he pulled a small emergency flashlight from his backpack. The beam flashed on. For less than a second, he saw it. A towering creature standing only a few feet behind him. Its body was unnaturally thin. Its skin looked gray and stretched tightly over its bones. Its arms reached almost to the ground, and its face had no eyes, only an impossibly wide smile filled with rows of jagged teeth. Before Ethan could even scream, the creature lunged toward him. He ran faster than he ever had in his life, praying he could find the edge of the forest before the forest found him first.